Hey, this is Kirby at Electric Fossil Studio in Milford, Delaware, and I want to talk about why I think the Beatles hit so hard when they did in February of 1964. So if you go back in time, so the 1950s was the rock and roll revolution in America. You had Elvis, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, uh, Big Bopper, Buddy Holly, Bill Haley in the comments, all Richie Valens, all of these things that were just filling the teenage lust for music, for excitement, to match the free time and somewhat enjoyment in life that kids had at that period, because they weren't dealing with the plight of World War II. It wasn't as hard. People were actually making money. They had decent wages, and things were going okay. Um, a lot of that stuff ended at the end of the 50s through death, through personal drama, drug, alcohol abuse, military service, moving to secular gospel music out of rock and roll. There's lots of reasons, but there's a huge void. That being said, there's a lot of other people that saw the opportunity to get into the music business. Barry Gordy in Detroit, Michigan started Motown Records. And in 57, they started their hits. And boy, they were pumping out hits like a factory in Detroit. And it was awesome. They had Smokey Robinson, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, just to name a few of the amazing, the Supremes. And then in New York City, the Brill Building, which had some young writers that you may have heard of, like Carole King, Paul Simon. That's just to name a few of those. And they were pumping out hits. So leading up to that point, remember that Eisenhower was the president in the 1950s. But Eisenhower was the president. He was an older guy, general in World War II. Then in 61, when JFK, John F. Kennedy Jr., became president, he's very much one of the more younger presidents, if not the youngest presidents in a long time for America. And at that time, it was like, here we go, moving to the future. It was all, we're into space travel. We're into the future. We got a youthful president. The time is now. Teenagers are now important. They're optimistic about the future, or what they could do, what the world could look like. You know, all these things of change are all kind of brewing about. And that's in 61. At the same time, you don't really have a soundtrack. You've got Motown and the Brill Building who are pumping out the hits. And I'll give you an October 63, to give you an idea of the top 100. Here's 5 of those songs. My Boyfriend's Back by the Angels, Heat Wave by Martha and Vandells, Surfer Girl by the Beach Boys, Be My Baby by the Ronettes, Little Deuce Coupe by the Beach Boys. I love all those songs. They're all great. And they're fun. And it's certainly fun. But that's not the future fun. That's kind of the 50s fun. It's like, snap your fingers. We're having a party. That's not where the head and the mindset of America is going. We're going to the future. We're also changing some stuff. At the same time, all of this, so you have change, but you also have this undercurrent of war, with Vietnam lurking in the shadows. A lot of reports about we should be going into war with Vietnam, and JFK, up until his death, from all accounts, was resistant to going to war. But then soon, when President Lyndon B. Johnson became president, he was very much in favor of going into war in Vietnam and escalating those efforts. So you had that kind of undercurrent. Not only things are changing, but oh my gosh, here comes another war maybe. So throughout all that, you have the Beatles, who they formed in 56 and 58 with 56 with Paul and John, I believe my memory's right. 58 with George Got Along, and then Stu Sutcliffe and such. And then they started the Residency. Now the Residency means they play every night at one location. So they went to Hamburg, Germany. If you don't know this, and I know some people out there are going to be like, yeah, no doubt, we've all heard of this before. But there's kids out there who've never heard of any of this stuff before. So feel free to look all this up further. So from mid-August 1960 until 1963, on and off, they were playing at the Hamburg Residency, which essentially is a strip club, what it was. But they were doing 4 sets a night, every night. So for the first little bit, it was 3.5 months of 4 sets a night. And a set is 12 songs. So 48 songs a day. Now, they were writing every day. They were learning covers. They were just learning how to work a crowd, be entertaining, be as compelling as the entertainment competition was at the time. So that was their training ground. That's where they kind of formed a unity as a band, songwriting identity. They started getting their songs together. From January to June of 61, they started touring. They had, did My Bonnie with Tony Sheridan. From February 61 to August of 63, they were playing the Cavern Club in Liverpool, which I'd love to go to, by the way, someday. And then June of 62, they made with George Martin, do a little demo recording, and then which leads to a record deal with them. And 62, they released Love Me Do and Please Please Me. 63, March of 63, they released From Me to You. In March of 63. August of 63, they released She Loves You. And they have their first LP out in February of 63 called Please Please Me. Mind you, up until this point, none of this is hit. There is no American distribution for these records. So it wasn't until after She Loves You that Capitol Records and Brian Epstein reached an agreement and then began promoting heavily the Beatles. So the fall, they started sending out promo records and everything else to get them hyped. And then they sent them in October. They sent them a copy of I Want to Hold Your Hand, which was released in November of 1963. On the same day that JFK is assassinated, November 22nd, 1963, the Beatles released With the Beatles, their next album. Through the next several months, they promote With the Beatles, and they do interviews. And then on February 7th, 1964, they play the infamous show that we've all seen clips of, and we've all heard our favorite rock musicians herald as the moment that changed their life on the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles performed. So what I think happened is I think that rock and roll and the song of the teenage soul is what rock and roll is. It kind of died a little bit, and this revitalized it because it brought in not just songs, but it brought back the energy. And if nothing else, there was a void of energy in the United States at that time, youthful energy at that. And the Beatles had it in spades. You had 4 people writing and performing their own songs. 4 people that were all funny. 4 people that dressed the same. 4 people that had long hair, not short hair, not buzz cuts, long hair, completely different contrast to what we're being fed. You know what the style is. I think that their preparation, all those years at the Cavern Club, all those years in Hamburg, I think that served them well. I think that the fact that they were excellent songwriters, excellent singers, served them well. Their ability to play together, to harmonize with each other, definitely served them well. The fact that they got with Brian Epstein, awesome. That was probably the turning point for them. When they get with George Martin, I think that's another turning point. He was looking for artists. They were the artist. You know, all timing, a lot of timing. But I think that they were the right band. The Rolling Stones would not hit the same. The Who would not hit the same. They're wonderful acts in their own right. But the Beatles were the perfect band at the perfect time for America. I think that's why they hit so hard when they did in February of 1964. If you like the books and time at the studio, we are looking at September to October as far as dates. As far as studio time, if you have any thing that really needs to get recorded, reach out to me through Instagram, Facebook. You can also email me at electricfossil@yahoo.com. Again, that's electricfossil@yahoo.com. And hope you enjoyed. I'll be back tomorrow. Also, there is a YouTube channel for Electric Fossil Studio that you can look up and kind of keep track of these videos, because they're going to be a little bit more long form kind of going forward. And look forward to hearing from you. See you guys.